At 800 meters below the surface of the Mariana region, in a darkness so complete that the word dark stops meaning anything, a creature drifted through cold that would kill you in minutes. It had been alive for millennia. We had no idea it existed. Then for exactly 4 seconds we turned on a light. That light traveled through water so dense it presses down with the weight of 280 elephants standing on every square inch of your body. To put that in scale, if you descended to where this creature lives, your bones would begin compressing before you'd fallen a quarter of the distance down. The pressure at that depth doesn't kill you quickly, it crushes you in degrees, and yet in the dark, things live. In 2026, a research vessel called the Atlantis Roman II lowered a camera array into the abyss near Guam. Not to find anything specific, just to watch, to let the dark reveal what it held. 17 minutes into descent, the frame went mostly black, the expected state at that depth. Then something drifted into the edge of the light cone. The held breath tightening low in the sternum came the moment we saw it half inside the beam and half inside the black. A jaw or fin curling back into absolute nothing, the beam that did not reach the wall, the creature already returning to a life that was already happening without us. That moment lasted less than a second. The footage went silent at the research lab in Woods Hole. Then someone said a single word: impossible. What they'd captured wasn't just a new species. It was a creature with an anatomical structure that contradicted the current models of how life adapts to extreme pressure. The skeleton, if you could call it that, wasn't calcified or reinforced the way every other deep-sea organism is. It was almost translucent, almost liquid in its joints, as if this creature had evolved backward into a form that shouldn't work but did. By the end of 2026, that single 4-second clip had led to the discovery of 17 other creatures in the same region, each one stranger than the last, each one suggesting that the deep ocean isn't running out of evolutionary possibilities, it's inventing new ones. The deepest parts of our planet span an area larger than all the continents combined. We have mapped the surface of the moon in more detail than we have mapped the ocean floor. In fact, we have photographed every square inch of Mars. We have never photographed most of the abyssal zone. The creatures living there outnumber all known species by a factor we can't accurately guess, because we've never been systematic enough to count. When the 2026 creatures were first brought up in sampling nets, the biologists couldn't classify them into any known order, not because the specimens were damaged, because the specimens simply didn't fit the grammar of taxonomy. One creature, temporarily named *Threnos abyssalis*, had 7 gills. 7. Every fish with gills has an even number: 2, 4, 6, never 7. The asymmetry suggested either a developmental accident or an evolutionary solution to something we don't yet understand about oxygen absorption at extreme depth. Another specimen discovered by a Chinese research team at 200 meters had eyes, but not eyes the way we understand them. The optical structures were oriented inward toward the brain rather than outward toward light sources, which means this creature, living in total darkness, was essentially looking at itself, or perhaps looking at something inside itself that humans don't possess, a sensory apparatus we have no frame of reference for. The real question these discoveries pose isn't what is this creature, it's how many rooms does reality have that we've never entered. Because here's what's being quietly discussed in marine biology circles now. The deep ocean may not be hostile to life, it may be generative to it. The combination of pressure, cold, and absolute darkness might not be inhibiting evolution, it might be accelerating it, forcing mutations and adaptations at a rate we can only theorize about. Because we've been observing these ecosystems for maybe 50 years in a place that's been occupied for millions. Consider the math. You could take every oceanographic expedition in human history, stack them end to end, and they would still have observed less than 0.001% of the deep ocean's volume. We are basically blind people holding a penlight in a stadium we're not sure how large it is, occasionally lighting up something that moves, and then calling ourselves scientists. The 2026 discoveries shifted something in how we think about this, not because the creatures themselves are remarkable, though they are, but because they proved something we half suspected but couldn't quite admit. We are not the primary authors of life on Earth. We are not the keepers of the catalogue. We're not even holding the penlight for very long. The dark wins every shot. This is the part nobody says out loud. We send down our cameras and our nets, and we interrupt something that was perfectly complete without us. We light a corner of the deep and persuade ourselves we've learned something about it. But the instant we stop looking, the dark reabsorbs that space. The creature goes back to its million-year-old business. The pressure seals back up. The cold continues its slow work. And somewhere below, something we've never seen is being born. The ocean is not waiting for our permission. It's not building suspense for our arrival. It's not even aware we exist. It's generating, it's creating, it's writing life in a language we haven't learned to read yet. And the best part, the part that should keep you awake, is that we've barely begun to listen. What we found in 2026 isn't the answer to what lives in the deep. It's proof that the question we are asking is still far too small.